5 signs. A person cannot be trusted. Trust. It's a small word with an immeasurable weight. It holds relationships together, anchors friendships, and stabilizes even the most fragile bonds. But when trust is misplaced, it can dismantle your life in ways you didn't see coming. Have you ever stared into someone's eyes and felt a flicker of doubt? Like their words didn't quite match their tone, like their actions whispered secrets their mouths refused to admit. Trust isn't given, it's earned. Yet too often, we ignore the subtle warnings, brushing them off as paranoia or misjudgment. But what if those gut feelings are the faint echoes of truths screaming to be acknowledged? What if the person sitting across from you, smiling, nodding, laughing, is slowly weaving a web you won't escape until it's too late? It's time to strip away the illusions and confront the uncomfortable. Let's uncover the 5 undeniable signs someone cannot be trusted. 1. They lie to themselves. Sure, we all lie to ourselves sometimes. You tell yourself you'll start that diet on Monday, or that the one more episode at 2 a.m. won't ruin tomorrow's productivity. These occasional self-deceptions might even feel harmless, like small comforts to get through life's tougher moments. But that's not the kind of lying we're talking about here. The real danger comes from those who make self-deception a way of life. People who convince themselves of their own falsehood so completely that their version of reality becomes a labyrinth you can't navigate. These are the people who rewrite their realities to make them more palatable. They claim they're always the victim, forever misunderstood, constantly wronged by a world that just doesn't get them. They craft stories where they're always the hero or, at the very least, never the villain. Think of a friend who insists every breakup they've had was because their partner was too controlling, even though you know they were cheating. Or a co-worker who swears their boss was out to get them, even though everyone else knows they were let go because they kept messing up. These aren't small, harmless lies. These are people reshaping the truth to protect their ego. And when someone can't be honest with themselves, how can they be honest with you? At first, these distortions may seem harmless, perhaps even pitiable. You might convince yourself they don't mean harm. After all, it's their battle with reality, not yours. But let's not romanticize this. Someone who lies to themselves is a ticking time bomb for any relationship. Let me tell you about Jake, a guy I shared a cramped apartment with in my 20s. He'd proudly tell everyone about how disciplined he was, how he went for runs every morning, and how he had his finances completely under control. But here's the truth. Jake's morning runs were cancelled more often than not by his snooze button, and his finances a disaster. When his bank account hit rock bottom, it wasn't because of his relentless splurging on gadgets he didn't need. No, it was a cruel system that punishes the middle class for daring to dream. And let's not forget his weekend diet philosophy. Apparently, donuts don't count as carbs on Saturdays. Jake wasn't lying to me. He was lying to himself. The irony was so thick it might as well have been the frosting on his favorite donuts. Self-deceivers are exhausting to deal with. They'll justify every mistake, tell outrageous stories, and twist every situation to suit their narrative. 1 minute, they're the poor, innocent victim wronged by life. The next, they're a misunderstood genius held back by everyone else. Arguing with them feels like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. Impossible, messy, and completely pointless. Why does it matter? Because someone who lies to themselves cannot confront the truth, even when it's staring them in the face. They can't face hard truths, and they can't admit when they're wrong. If they're constantly bending reality for their own comfort, what's stopping them from bending it to suit their interactions with you? And if they can't be honest with themselves, how can they be honest with you? Can you trust their version of events? Or worse, Can you trust them not to rewrite your shared history to fit their narrative? Now imagine trusting someone like Jake with something that matters, like working on a group project. Deadlines get missed, and instead of owning up to their mistakes, they come up with an elaborate excuse involving broken printers, confusing instructions, and an unfair workload. It's not just annoying, it's harmful. Their lies create chaos, and you're left to clean up the mess while wondering why you didn't see it coming. Here's the truth. Honesty is hard. It's heavy and uncomfortable, but it's what builds strong relationships. Someone who constantly avoids the truth to protect themselves isn't someone you can depend on. Trusting them is like leaning on a shadow. It looks real until you need it, and then it's gone. If they can't be honest with themselves, they'll eventually struggle to be honest with you, and that's a risk you can't afford to take. You'll always be left guessing which version of reality you're dealing with, and spoiler alert, it's never the truthful one. 2. They are two-faced. You've seen it, haven't you? The colleague who praises your ideas in a meeting, only to badmouth them to the boss moments later. The friend who laughs with you over coffee but rolls their eyes the second you leave. It's subtle at first, easy to miss, but eventually their duplicity becomes a slap in the face. Nothing stings quite like realizing the person who smiles at you in public is the same one who tears you down in private. The worst part is how well they hide it. They don't just lie, they perform. They'll craft a persona so convincing that even when you hear the rumors, you'll second-guess yourself. Surely they wouldn't say that about me, you think. But they did. And they will again. Two-faced people are like human chameleons. They change their colors depending on who's watching. On the surface, they appear warm, loyal, and genuine. They smile at you, compliment your choices, and nod enthusiastically when you share your thoughts. But turn your back, and they morph into something entirely different, shedding that facade like a cheap costume. What they whispered sweetly in one moment becomes twisted ammunition in the next. I learned this the hard way about 20 years ago. There was a colleague, let's call her Nancy. To your face, Nancy was the epitome of support. "You're doing an incredible job," she'd say, her voice dripping with sincerity. "I don't know how this place would survive without you." But the moment she walked into the boss's office, she became a different person. Suddenly, I was the reason for every hiccup in the workflow. "I'm not sure they're meeting expectations," she'd say with just enough concern to sound convincing, but not so much that she seemed malicious. It was like being praised and betrayed in the same breath, a dizzying act of emotional whiplash. The worst part, I didn't know what was happening until much later when her mask slipped and her true face was revealed. By then, the damage had already been done, leaving a trail of fractured trust and office drama. Picture this. You're confiding in a coworker, sharing a struggle you'd rather keep private. They nod empathetically, maybe even offer a hug. You feel safe. But a week later, the office buzzes with gossip, your personal story now public fodder. Two-faced people don't just betray trust, they weaponize it. Imagine trusting someone like this. You confide in them, sharing your deepest fears and proudest moments, only to find out later that your trust was nothing more than entertainment for their gossip. It's like pouring water into a bucket full of holes. You're left empty, wondering where you went wrong. These chameleons often excel in social circles, charming their way into hearts and minds. They'll praise you to your face with words sweeter than honey, but the moment you're out of earshot, their tone shifts to venom. Did you see how he completely butchered that presentation? Unbelievable. It's not just the betrayal of their words, it's the sheer ease with which they switch gears. A two-faced person isn't just a liar. They're a betrayal waiting to happen, and the cost of trusting them is always more than you're willing to pay. 3. Persistent jealousy. Jealousy has a way of revealing the worst in people. It starts as a flicker of envy, but grows into a consuming flame that burns through trust like dry leaves in a wildfire. People consumed by envy don't just want what you have. They resent you for having it. They want to see you without it. Whether it's your success, relationships, or even your happiness, they view your wins as their losses. And trust? That's impossible when someone sees your achievements as threats instead of inspirations. These individuals rarely celebrate your wins. When you land that promotion, they'll say, "Must be nice to have good luck." When you share your exciting plans, they'll respond with a faint smile and a quiet, "I could have done that too if I had the time." Their words may seem harmless, but their intent is anything but. Trusting someone who resents your happiness is like building a house on a fault line. You're one good shake away from disaster. You might catch them throwing subtle barbs disguised as jokes. Wow, you're lucky. Not everyone gets handed opportunities like that. The humor is fake. The bitterness is real. It's in the little things, the way they subtly undermine your achievements, the way they forget to invite you to events, or how they downplay your success in front of others. It's not just pettiness, it's a deliberate erosion of your confidence. Over time, this behavior eats away at trust. How can you confide in someone who envies you? How can you feel safe when every step forward feels like stepping on their toes? Now picture this. You're on a team, working toward a shared goal. The jealous person doesn't just envy your abilities, they resent them. So they accidentally leave you out of crucial conversations or misplace information you needed to succeed. It's sabotage, wrapped in the guise of incompetence. And beware of the sabotage. A jealous person might feign support while secretly hoping and sometimes plotting for your downfall. They'll mask their intentions under the guise of concern. Are you sure you're ready for that project? It seems like a lot for someone at your level. Trusting someone who resents your growth is like planting flowers in toxic soil. No matter how much effort you pour in, nothing good will bloom. Persistent jealousy is also a sign of deep insecurity. People who can't celebrate others' successes are often battling their own feelings of inadequacy, but instead of addressing those feelings, they project them outward, making you the target of their frustration. This kind of person will never truly be in your corner because your victories remind them of everything they feel they lack. It's not just about what you've achieved, it's about what they haven't. Trust requires mutual respect and a willingness to see others succeed. A jealous person can't offer either. Their envy blinds them, turning even the closest of relationships into silent competitions. And when someone is always comparing themselves to you, they're not focusing on being a friend. They're focusing on being better, even if it means tearing you down in the process. Jealousy isn't just a feeling, it's a weapon. And when someone wields it against you, the damage isn't just emotional, it's deeply personal. Trusting a jealous person is like standing in the path of a storm, hoping it won't hit you. Spoiler alert, it always does. If you ever find yourself questioning whether someone is happy for you or just pretending to be, take it as a sign. True friends don't need to hide their support. They offer it freely and genuinely. Persistent jealousy isn't just a red flag, it's a glaring warning sign that trust has no place in that relationship. 4. They're being dodgy. Trust thrives in clarity, and dodgy behavior is its mortal enemy. You've seen it, the evasive answers, the sudden topic changes, the body language that screams discomfort. Dodgy people live in the shadows of half-truths, keeping you guessing about their motives, actions, or even their whereabouts. Let's say you ask a simple question, "Where were you last night?" Instead of a direct answer, you get a convoluted story about how their phone died, their car broke down, an unexpected run-in with an old friend, and a UFO might have abducted their signal. The story is so elaborate, it feels suspiciously over-constructed. Dodgy behavior is a flashing neon sign that something's wrong. Why not just tell the truth? People who dodge direct questions or give vague, overly complicated answers are hiding something. It could be as innocent as a forgotten promise or as serious as a betrayal. Either way, their inability to be straightforward is a sign that trust isn't on their list of priorities. I once had a mutual friend, let's call him Mark. Mark was the guy you could never pin down, both figuratively and literally. He'd always seem to pop up when he needed something but would vanish the second you asked for a favor. One day, I asked him about a shared project deadline, and he hit me with, "Oh yeah, I've got that all under control. Totally sorted." Something in his tone made me pause, so I asked for details. His response, "Well, you know, it's complicated, but trust me, it's fine." Spoiler alert, it was not fine. The project wasn't just incomplete. Mark hadn't even started it. The art of being dodgy lies in making you doubt yourself. When someone sidesteps your questions or gives vague responses, it's easy to second-guess your instincts. "Maybe I'm overthinking," you tell yourself, but you're not. You're being played. Dodgy people thrive on your hesitation, using their ambiguity to avoid accountability while leaving you holding the bag. What makes it worse is their talent for distraction. Mark, for instance, would always pivot to irrelevant topics to throw you off the scent. You'd ask, "Have you finished your part of the work?" And suddenly you'd find yourself listening to a detailed account of how he almost became a professional drummer but gave it up to pursue more intellectual endeavors. By the time the conversation ended, you were so baffled you forgot why you'd even asked in the first place. You'll notice other patterns too: cancelled plans with flimsy excuses, shifting blame when things go wrong, and a general sense of unease when you try to pin them down. They're not just unreliable, they're evasive. And evasiveness is a breeding ground for mistrust. What's truly infuriating about dodgy people is their audacity to feign innocence. When caught in their web of half-truths and evasions, they'll act like you're the one being unreasonable. "Why are you making such a big deal out of this?" they'll ask, their face a picture of exaggerated shock. And just like that, you're left wondering if you're the problem, while they slink away unscathed. Here's the truth: trust and dodginess can't coexist. If someone can't give you straight answers, follow through on commitments, or simply show up when it matters, they're not worth your trust. Relationships require clarity, not a constant guessing game. And when someone is more slippery than a bar of soap in a bubble bath, the only winning move is to let go before you drown in their evasiveness. 5. They can't keep your secrets. There's a unique kind of betrayal that comes from someone spilling your secrets. It's not just about the act itself, it's about the realization that the bond you thought was sacred was, in fact, disposable. You'll spot these people easily. They're the ones who say, "Don't tell anyone," but before sharing someone else's private story. They frame it as concern or casual conversation, but their actions reveal their true character. If they're willing to expose someone else's secrets, why would yours be any different? Perhaps you've experienced it firsthand. You confide in a friend about something deeply personal, trusting them to guard it. Days later, you hear your story retold by someone else, distorted and embellished. The betrayal cuts deep, not because of the secret itself, but because of what it represents: their utter disregard for your trust. Trusting someone who can't keep your secrets is like storing treasure in a glass box. It's only a matter of time before it shatters, leaving your vulnerabilities exposed for the world to see. And once that trust is broken, rebuilding it feels almost impossible. Conclusion. Trust is the foundation of every meaningful connection, whether it's with a friend, partner, or colleague. Without it, relationships crumble under the weight of suspicion and uncertainty. The signs of untrustworthiness, lying to themselves, being two-faced, harboring persistent jealousy, acting dodgy, and failing to keep your secrets, are not just red flags. They're blaring alarms demanding your attention. Life is too short to surround yourself with people who betray your trust, no matter how subtle or disguised their actions may be. It's tempting to make excuses for their behavior or give them the benefit of the doubt. But trust isn't something to gamble with. Once broken, it's almost impossible to repair, and the damage can leave scars that last a lifetime. Pay attention to the patterns, the little lies that grow into webs of deceit, the friendly jabs that mask envy, the evasive answers that keep you guessing. These aren't quirks to overlook. They're warnings of deeper issues. Trustworthy people don't leave you questioning their loyalty. They make you feel secure, seen, and supported. Take a moment to evaluate the people in your life. Are they lifting you up or quietly pulling you down? Do they celebrate your wins or silently resent them? The answers to these questions are often more telling than we'd like to admit. But facing the truth, as painful as it may be, is the first step to building stronger, healthier relationships. Letting go of someone who breaks your trust isn't an act of cruelty, it's self-respect. When you hold yourself to a standard of honesty, loyalty, and transparency, you create space for others who share those values to enter your life. Trust is a precious gift, and you deserve to give it only to those who will cherish and honor it. So choose wisely, protect your peace, guard your heart, and never settle for less than the trust you're willing to give. After all, a life surrounded by genuine people is not just fulfilling, it's liberating.